Okay, let me start with your amazing comments as usual. Such a great class, really. I gotta tell y'all, the level is just great, stellar. I'm almost nostalgic because I'm gonna put the class in general ed now. It's gonna be on pathways, so it's gonna get a lot of people who right it's never gonna be like this. This might be the last time. Wow. If I hate it, I'll take it off pathways. But I thought I'd give it a try. But this was amazing, like such a concentration of intelligence, right? Beautiful. So okay, so let me start with Corcoran. So you notice, rightly so, a good note, good observation, the paradox, right, between Hevel and happiness, enjoyment. How can I enjoy life if there's this kind of specter of Hevel looming over me, right? Remember, Hevel is the Hebrew word, right, that is being translated vanity, futility, meaninglessness. Write it down again, right? Poorly translated, right, in my view. Vanity, well translated by Adler, breath, right, but otherwise meaningless and so forth, right? So she's asking, right, how can I truly enjoy myself if everything is meaningless? I can't. So today we're going to look at the connection. You're right, they're actually, it's not a paradox, they're connected. Can't have one without the other. We're going to look at that specifically today. Your question about the woman in Ecclesiastes 7, I think, we answered way a while back when we said that the woman represents wisdom in all of the works of Solomon. So probably there, and in the context of that verse, I haven't found one woman among 1,000. The context of that verse, if you read around it, it's about him looking for wisdom and not finding it. So it's many scholars agree that probably it's kind of, he's just being poetic, waxing poetic about, can't find lady wisdom. So you can go and reread it in the context and you'll see. Good. Michael, what did I write? Yes, the ending. A lot of you looked at the ending. Let's look at the ending really quick. I'm not going to talk about it, but it's fun to look at really quick. So if you've read Ecclesiastes, the whole thing, you get the sense of a general tone, right? Mm-hmm. There's a certain tone in the book, which somehow, and I agree with most of you, from verse 12 on, right? The last couple verses, so chapter 12, verse 12 on, even before, verse 9 on, right? The tone shifts from this kind of, very uncertain, nebulous, confused climate to, okay, a further word. And then it's all like very like, tack, boot campish, right? Like here's the clear message now, So many scholars have noticed this, the change of tone, and also the fact that the book itself, the poetic part ends, right, with, where does it end? Right before, if you look at verse 8 of chapter 12, you have the last vanity of vanities, right? And this is kind of the whole, is framing, right? He began like that, he closes with that. You sense that the discourse of Kohelet is finished, and then it's like somebody pops in, right? Maybe it looks like a different author, and possibly is, right? Another word, because Kohelet was a sage, talking about Kohelet now. He continued to instruct people, he listened, blah, blah, blah. And then now, here is the end of the sum of the matter. Fear God, observe his commandments, blah, blah, blah. And that's the ending, right? Okay, so what can we make? So clearly, I'm going to go with the idea that we can do both. We can say it's Solomon adding this kind of little postscript, playfully, I would say, because not in the style of Solomon at all, right? Or we can say it's a later author. Doesn't matter. Why is this ending there? What's the purpose of this ending? How are we supposed to understand this? Why do you think it's been added there? Yeah.
Like, I kind of feel like the whole text is inviting people to question like what the meaning of life is and if it matters whether or not, like whether they observe God's commandments. I think it's just like, despite everything that was just said, like, don't forget to the Jews what you're here for.
Yes. Like, just in case you got confused, right, as you were reading this, just in case you got lost along the way here, at least remember this and you'll be fine, right? So for me, it sounds kind of like that, right? It's like, okay, just in case we've wandered very far, just in case we lost you there, just in case you drowned, right, into the confusion of Kohelet, here, you know, here's a raft. Here's what do you call these circular things you throw to people who are drowning?
Life preserver.
Here's a life preserver, right? So I see it like that, right? You want to say something? Yes, go ahead.
I think much like the ending of Job, I think people are cowards and they don't like bad endings.
Yeah,
They
no,
get something at the end and say, okay, yeah, I know you read this entire depressing paper and you don't really want to be that way, so I'll change it all the way at the end so you have a happy ending.
exactly, that's what it looks like. Although he's not contradicting, right? I want you to notice he's not contradicting. There is really they're not contradictory texts, but the tonality is very different. So so I just wanted to say that this could be either Ecclesiastes playfully giving a kind of, you know, traditional ending, or somebody else. I don't like this idea of, you know, later scribes or whatever. It's always the cowardly way out. I can see Ecclesiastes himself penning that, and, you know, with a smile, a little ironic smile, you know, here, just in case, you know, let me kosherize my book, or, you know, let me give it a stamp of, you know, kosher, so that people will still read. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up a little bit. It's an interesting ending. And not so contradictory, actually, when you really, well, we're going to look at the text today and we'll see that there's not too much of a contradiction. So good observation. Epstein, I think you found the heart of what we're going to do today. Ecclesiastes 2 verse 25. Very good. You sensed the where the shift occurs. So I'm going to come back to that. Well done. Davidov, I liked your question about are there connections between Eastern thought and Ecclesiastes? Certainly, actually, because remember, Ecclesiastes, the empire of Solomon, so even historically stretched all the way to India, right? We know there were trade routes. We know there was trade going on between the Far East and the kingdom of Solomon. So, and certainly there would have been also intellectual influences. I see a lot of connections between this and Buddhism, like you said, and we can point them out. I mean, one of the main, we can point them out at the end, but actually, let's wait till the end, because when we've done the chapter today, you'll see very clearly. So yes, very good observation, which works even historically, and even in the text, you can find connections. That was nice. Yes, Kaplan at the ending. I just covered that. Rivera likewise, and you notice you notice that Kohelet is feminine, right? The word for Ecclesiastes, right? We translated Ecclesiastes in the Hebrew. It's Kohelet. Which means, what does it mean? Kahal is assembly, so Kohelet is, anybody know? The one who speaks it before an assembly?
To assemble, come to do this.
I know, Kahal is to assemble, so the assembler is the one who assembles?
One who assembles.
Okay. Okay. It's interesting. The one who gathers, the one who assembles, feminine. I mean, we can do something with that. It can become, you can do a little midrash, right? About this being a mother's house text, right? It's about gathering people. So we could go there a little bit too. Nice, good. And then Suresh, you mentioned this again, this verse, can the straight be made crooked, right? And what we're going to see with Ecclesiastes is the idea that even in the crooked, we can find, right, a path. Most of the Bible is about becoming straight, not in the sense that we say today, but it's about walking the straight line. Remember Job? How was he described? Remember the two words that describe Job? Dam and Yasha. What was Yasha? Straight. Meaning you're walking, you know, you're following the path of the ancestors. You are not going to the left or to the right. You're just, you know, really doing the right thing without moving left or right. That's the path of the majority of the biblical text, is you want to be yasha, straight. Solomon is crooked, right? And in the crooked path, he's going to find also some truth, right? So I would see it like that. So thanks for bringing that up. That is definitely, he doesn't want to make the crooked straight, right? Even within the crooked, you can find something interesting. Okay, good. All right, let's get into the text. So today we focus on chapter 2. because between 1 and 2, we cover the whole thing. So, so let's remember again what we did with 1. So remember, this is a book about a king who has lost his ma'at, right? He has lost his goddess. And as a result, chaos is now abounding in the sense that there is no justice, right? Ma'at is the goddess of justice. And he himself now is losing his grip on the kingdom. He's losing his authority, the source of his authority. And then, of course, we're going to see how he, in chapter 2, how he continues, right, to struggle to somehow regain control, right? That's really chapter 2, is the struggle of the king to regain control over the situation that is becoming more and more chaotic. And we saw, or we're going to see today, how because of the lack of balance, right, with the goddess Ma'at, with the feminine, he's losing the feminine. He's losing who's the other female he's lost in addition to Ma'at in this text? Who else did he lose? Exactly, right? He's losing all the women. So he lost Ma'at, he's losing Lady Wisdom, right? And we're going to see that he's trying to regain, right, this, what he lost. He's after something, and we're going to see how he, in a way, hits a wall, hits rock bottom, and then we're going to see his epiphany, how he finds, how he's able to find again his ma'at, right? Okay, so let's go to chapter 2. If you read chapter 2 from the beginning, we are looking at a man who is now out of balance, right? We talked about this briefly in the introduction. This is the exacerbation of the masculine, right? The too much yang, you know, the yin yang, right? It's a great concept, right? The yin is the feminine, the yang is the masculine. The feminine is more receptive, right? It's kind of what we're doing in the class too. And the yang is more active. We have a flurry of activity in chapter 2. And we have an exacerbation of doing, right? Pure father's house, but toxic father's house, right? It's doing. So let's look a little bit at this doing. So that's why I call it toxic masculinity, right? In the sense that it's a masculinity which is out of balance. There's no more feminine. It's going too much towards the masculine. It's just too much doing, right? And in a way, it makes things worse, right? So let's look a little bit at that. So we see, first of all, in chapter 2, which I feel like starts earlier, but I feel like chapter 1, verse 12 is already the beginning of this quest, right? I mean, let's go there. Chapter 1, verse 12 is really when we switch from a new idea. I, Kohelet, was king in Jerusalem over Israel. I set my mind to study, to probe wisdom. So first quest, set my mind to study, right? Activity. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna conquer this, right? And then he continues, an unhappy business, right? That which God gave men to be concerned with. And then he says, I observed, right? All the happenings, but we talked about this last time. And then we have the twisted thing. And then he said, I here have grown richer, wiser. So now we're moving from wisdom to wealth, to the success story of Solomon, right? And this is continuing chapter 2, verse 1. After this notion of wealth, which we'll come back to in a bit, pleasure. Now he's seeking pleasure actively. Come, I will treat you to merriment, taste mirth. And he's, just really actively seeking pleasure. I ventured to tempt my flesh with wine and grasp folly. I multiplied my possessions. So he's moving now into another aspect, which is work, right? So notice the 3 things that he's after: wisdom, pleasure, work. Where did we see these 3? Where did we see these 3 all together? Wisdom, pleasure in the sense of eating, drinking, and work. Where are all these 3 activities found together? Wisdom, work, eating, drinking. Wisdom, work in the Inanna story?
The weaving.
Oh, the brother's working. She puts him to work. Yes, that's true. And the pleasure also. But even in the biblical text, we study the story together, where you have wisdom, quest for wisdom, you have the quest for pleasure, something tasting good. Yes, right. The creation story. Remember, right? Genesis 3. She sees the tree and sees that it is what? How does she put it? We're getting there. Let's see what she saw. Anybody remember this by memory? Where is it? Chapter 3. Let's look at her. When she's looking at that tree. Help me find it. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, she saw that the tree was good for eating, a delight to the eyes. I'm in chapter 3, verse 6. And that the tree was desirable as a source for wisdom. So we have, right, Genesis 3, we have the desirable, right? Good to eat, right? We have the notion of wisdom. Where do we have work in Genesis? In those stories, yeah.
We have God's work. The point is that she didn't deserve that.
Right. But also, who else is working in the garden? Yeah, they're both supposed to work the land, right? They're supposed to. So the garden is a place of work also, not just pleasure, not just wisdom. So you see how in their allusions, Ecclesiastes, when he's writing, he has in the back of his mind, we know already, Genesis 1 until 3, 1 to 3. He has it in the back of his mind. So when he's over here seeking pleasure, seeking to, success through work, seeking wisdom, what is he seeking? Actually,
Life, right? Is it life?
almost. What is he seeking?
Creation.
God?
I would say, or I would say Eden, right? He's seeking Eden. He's trying to go back to that which we lost. He's trying to grasp something which has been forbidden, right? Remember, Solomon is all about entering forbidden places. The Garden of Eden, how do we know it's forbidden? Who forbade? How? What happened? How? What did he do?
Don't do it.
Now, after they were expelled, what did he place at the entrance of the
Sorry.
Right, exactly, right? It's forbidden. Of course, Solomon wants to go there. And so this is really him trying to get back into Eden, to find that original bliss that the humanity has lost. And he's trying so actively, so with so much effort, trying to find it. I mean, look at this. Go to lost it now. Go to Ecclesiastes 2, which I'm going to take 3 hours to find now. Because, yeah, here we are. Go back to Ecclesiastes 2, right? I'm on verse 4. I multiplied my possessions. I built houses. I planted vineyards. I laid out gardens. I planted every kind of fruit tree. Are you seeing the semantic field of creation, right? It constructed pools of water to irrigate. I bought male and female slaves. I acquired stewards. I acquired cattle, herds, flocks, blah, blah, blah. Amassed silver, gold. Look at all he's doing to get back into Eden. And then the conclusion, of course. And verse 11. It was all futile and pursuit of wind, right? So that's what I want you to see, right? Read between the lines. When you're reading this beginning of chapter 2, it has a semantic field. We call that a semantic field. It's a language, same concepts of creation story, right? You see references upon references to Genesis 1 and 2. So you know what's happening. There is more than a man trying to build himself. It's a man trying to penetrate back into the forbidden Garden of Eden, right? Some sages tried to go back there too. What happened to them? 4 sages, you know the story. 4 sages tried to go back.
Crazy.
One went crazy.
And one became apostate. Forgot what other.
Crazy, apostate, or one died.
One died.
And the last one?
Walked out on supposedly okay.
Made it. Right? Rabbi Akiva, very famous rabbi, he made it. But 3 out of the 4 companions who tried to penetrate back into Eden, like Solomon is doing that, lost their mind, died, lost their faith, right? It's a very dangerous task which Solomon is trying to do, right? And he fails, right? We see that. So make sure you write this down, right? This is about going back to Eden, finding the original bliss of life. He's trying to make it happen, to seek it, he's trying to force his way back into Eden, and he fails lamentably. Let's remind ourselves, let's look at the Hevel one more time. In this passage, by the way, Havel is mentioned. Anybody counted them? How many Havels we have in chapter 2? Guess. It's such an easy number. 7. Yes, you can count that. I'll give you of course. I'll give you the references. Chapter 2, verse 1, verse 11, verse 15, verse 17, verse 21, verse 23, and verse 26. Havel, right? Now guess. It echoes another passage where you have 7 times another word that is used, which is the antithesis of Havel. What is the antithesis of Havel?
Good.
Yes, thank you. You guys are getting it. Good in the creation stories. How many times? Wild guess.
7.
Yes. Genesis 1, verse 3, verse 9, verse 12, verse 18, 21, 25, 31, right? So we have again, right? He's writing this passage with in mind the creation story, right? And you can see how he's struggling to get back into Eden. It's Haven. Yes. To the what? Tell me how. Yes. He tries to go into the garden, get the thing of immortality. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, of course. Yeah. This whole idea of trying to nice. Okay. I like that. Yes, write this down. Gilgamesh, whom we met earlier, right? The kind of barbaric lover of Inanna. Also, if you read the Epic of Gilgamesh, which you all should, it's not long. He also tried to penetrate into the forbidden garden in order to get, what was it, the flower or plant of immortality? Yeah. And then, of course, who did he lose the plant to? It's funny. A snake, right? A snake comes and same kind of story, right? We are in the same era, same time span, right? Very nice. Yes, good point. So yes, King Solomon is I can see nice connections with Gilgamesh. This is interesting. Gilgamesh built the first city. He was the first hero of the Sumerian culture, and Solomon in a way is mirroring this kind of very manly, and Gilgamesh is very kind of very macho, right? Gilgamesh is somebody who in the end despises Inanna, right? She tried to seduce him one more time, and he just in the Epic of Gilgamesh, he sends her, packing. Yes.
There's also a kind of thing that I wrote about at one point in Gilgamesh, where in the story of Gilgamesh, there's also Enkidu, and Enkidu has also this kind of crisis moment where he realizes he's dying, and he made a door at one point in the story, and then he sees this door after he's kind of cursed with dying or like disease, and he gets really mad that the door is going to outlast him, even though he made the door for his own use.
The door. You mean a door?
Like just a regular door, just a door that he made.
I made a door, like a door.
Yeah, out of like a really fancy tree.
Oh,
I
okay,
forgot why
okay.
the tree was important.
Interesting.
And he gets and he gets
missed
really
that part,
mad
yeah.
and he breaks the door off its hinges in his rage, and like that kind of Solomon's whole thing. Like I don't like how my other generations are going to enjoy the things that I've made.
Yes. Nice. Yes. Very good. Very good. I like the connections you guys are making. Very good. Okay. So we're at this point right now where he has hit rock bottom, right? And the Havel, remember, let's remind ourselves the meaning of that, right? This is Havel it does not mean vanity. It does not mean meaningless. In literal translation, breath, not the in breath, the powerful breath, which is normally called ruah, right? Which is the powerful breath of life. This is not what we mean, right? No, which is breath of life. But Havel is just the expiration, right? Breath, like something you blow, right? Something that when you breathe that way, it's an exhalation, right? You breathe in, you possess the breath, and then the breath goes, right? So the connotation of Havel, let's remind ourselves, is the fact that it is something I cannot contain. It is something I can't keep. I can't possess. You cannot possess your breath. Your breath constantly escaping you, right? You try, and then it goes, right? That's the idea. So the meaning of Havel, I think the best way to understand it is to understand it as the sense of something slipping through your fingers, right? That is what King Solomon is realizing. I tried to achieve this, but it slipped through my fingers. Havel, right? That's what he means. Now, it's interesting. He hits rock bottom, and then there's a powerful turning point. And I want us to go there, and Epstein already found it. Very good. Chapter 2, verse 25. Chapter 2, actually, verse 24. Right? Now, we're going to analyze this closely. If you have the Hebrew, it's even better. because it's going to be very interesting. Chapter 24, there's a number of shifts. I'm going to read it in English. So all of a sudden in chapter 24, the translation sucks because it misses the appearance of the word tov. Boom, out of the blue. Good, right? All of a sudden, you have heaven, and all of a sudden, tov, right? Which is from where? Where do we have this? Everywhere?
Yes.
Genesis 1, okay? So all of a sudden he says, right, Ein Tov in verse 24, there's nothing better, that's the translation, or there's nothing as good as, right? There's no good as, right? Something like that. As there's nothing as good as a man to eat or drink and afford himself enjoyment. And even that I noted comes from the hand of God. For he who eats and enjoys, but myself, for to the man who pleases him, he has given wisdom, and to him who displeases him, he has given the urge, and so forth. Okay, so we have several things happening here. We have a shift. Solomon, in a way, is shifting his positioning is shifting from Hevel to Tov. Can you tell me why all of a sudden now he's able to see the Tov of life and appreciate it, in spite or maybe because of the Hevel? Well, look at that. What's the shift? Yes.
This is Ein Tov.
Yes, Ein Tov. Yeah, but it's a expression to mean there's nothing as good as this, right? It's not that he's saying it's not good. He's not saying it's not good to enjoy. He's saying there's nothing as good as enjoying. You see what I'm saying? No? What do your translation? You don't agree with the translation? Nobody, does anyone have a different translation? What?
The better friend is preface of there's no good in a man.
Mhm.
And drink. Yeah, there's no good in a man who eats and drinks.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna have to go back on that. I have a feeling it means that, but I have to go back to that.
Our translation says there's nothing better for a man.
Yeah, that's what I have too, right? All the
Yeah.
translations are unanimous. The translation also, nobody agrees with the translation, that's fine, but but I can go and investigate the Hebrew. I can do that. So hold that thought, right? Yeah, right. I'll check the grammar. Yeah. Exactly, but I need to check. I will check that, but so for now we'll go with the translation and I will check to give you some more details on how to read it in the Hebrew, how to understand the Ein Tov, right? Very good. So in any case, we have Tov there, we have Tov again in verse 26, right? And we have Tov again one more time in verse, same verse, 26, right? Let's see if I can find it in the English. It doesn't come out in the so verse 26, to the man, namely, okay, to the man who is good before him, right? For the man who is good before God, that's the translation here, or pleases God, who is good before God. To him, God gives, blah, blah, blah. And then it says, hold on.
What was the explanation that you were gonna give as to why he views these things?
Why he's switching to Tov?
Yeah.
I'm good. That's where I'm
Oh.
going. That's where I'm investigating. But I want you to see the three Tovs, right? So, and then finally, let's see. He has given good to and then we have the ending, right? So we have the word Tov appearing 3 times in the Hebrew, and it doesn't come out so much in translation. So my question to you is this is verses 24 to 26. Right? And you have the word Tov right at the beginning. And then you have the man who is good before God, verse 26. And that's the other Tov. And then we have the one who gives, the one who is pleasing to God. Again, the same idea, the one who is good before God, right? So we have Tov, Tov, Tov. Okay, so I want you to tell me what in Solomon has shifted that all of a sudden now, instead of seeing Hevel, he sees Tov. He is now, all of a sudden, you have to see this. I know you guys love this language, astro projected, right? He has been translated into the Garden of Eden. He's seeing good everywhere. He's there. He made it. What happened? You see what I'm saying? There's more from the Garden of Eden. There's the repetition of give 3 times. Let me give it. And the give, of course, is keyword in Genesis 1, where God gives to Adam and Eve. He gives to them the fruit to eat and so forth, right? So give, Natan. Let's have another keyword, right? Which is found still here. It's like a detective story. to give. So the word give, Natan, is a key word also in the Genesis 1, where God gives, right? He's giving Adam and Eve the fruits and the grasses to eat. And you find this here 3 times. Let me tell you where. You see it very well in the English, actually. Let's see, where's the first one? Okay. Verse 26, they're all in verse 26. To the man who pleases God, he has given wisdom. To the one who displeases, he has given the urge. And finally, yes, 3 times in the Hebrew, he's giving, giving, giving. You have the word Natan and finally latet. Okay, now, so we are clearly, so I want you to notice this, we are clearly, somehow he has been translated, he has found his way, he has astro projected back into Eden. I want you to tell me, how did he do it? What is the shift here in his positioning that would have brought him from before, where he's trying to find, you know, building, amassing, doing this, doing that, and all of a sudden, here he is. What's the difference? Can you see it between this section? This section should sound radically, qualitatively different. It's a different atmosphere from the one we just studied. Yes.
Because these things are about things God has given directly to him.
Very good, right? That's basically the shift. He's shifting from doing to receiving. That's the shift we see. Look how the multiplication of his doings. I laid out, I planted, I bought, I acquired, I amassed, I got, I gained, I, with action, action, action. And now all of a sudden, God, and I received, right? So that's the shift. He's shifting. He's doing a father's house, mother's house shift, right? From doing me, I'm at the center, I'm in control, I'm making it, to now, I can't do it, right? To now, God at the center, and you are on the receptive end, right? Okay, so let's look at this, right? Let's talk about this a little bit, because this is significant. This is the main breakthrough that King Solomon has found and is guiding us into, right? Basically, what he's saying is that the only way to find Eden is what? Without even leaving your seat, you can be astral projected, or you can be translated, or you can be in the spirit of Eden. What needs to shift within ourselves for us to find our way there? Or is it forever inaccessible to us? Yes.
I think he's kind of saying that we're all already there. We just have to flip the switch and understand that it's already been given to us. We just have to be willing to receive it.
Exactly, right? This is a shift of perspective. We are already still, Eden is still all around us, perhaps, but we do not see it because we are so busy trying to control everything. Eden is a mentality. It's not some place, geographical place. It's a mentality. And the mentality is gratitude and joyful expectation for the gifts of God. If you dwell in that attitude, if you position yourself like this, you will be in Eden at every point of your life. Let me say it again, right? Eden is an attitude. What did I say? By which you live in gratefulness, that's number 1, and joyful expectation of the gifts of God, right? You live knowing that it's not up to you. Whew, relief, right? Huge relief. To know that it's not up to you is already, you can breathe, exhale. Remember the movie? No, you don't know this, back in the day. Wait, maybe you know this. Waiting to Exhale with Whitney Houston and company. Y'all know Whitney Houston? No, don't know Whitney Houston. Okay, good. Long time ago, 80s, right? It's a movie about, you know, just it's a chick flick about, you know, women who are just stressed about their lives, and the movie is waiting to. It's how, you know, you try to make it, and you never really exhale. And the movie is all about, you know, waiting to exhale till I get there, then I can. You know, King Solomon is saying it's now. Now you can exhale. It is an attitude whereby you recognize that you cannot control your destiny. You can only receive it. That's the idea here. Let me say it again. This is the realization that you cannot control your destiny. You cannot control your happiness. You cannot control your success. You can only receive it. And at that moment, when you realize that, okay, it's not my hands, I can relax. I can still work and do what I need to do, but the outcome doesn't depend on me, right? At that moment, where you realize everything is a gift and nothing is, you know, a duty or something you can make happen, you are already in Eden. You've made it. Does that make sense? Am I make sense? That's the shift. Yes.
The recognition that life is short, but that life is also a gift from God. And everything that you have in life is a gift from God. And it's there for you to enjoy and to appreciate. And not to just drive and strive and strive. and strive.
Exactly.
But
Right.
drive and strive is pointless.
Right. You can work,
Because
right?
work is not pointless, but
Yeah.
endless striving.
Exactly. 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 Yeah, exactly. Right. It is, you still work, but you don't work in an attitude of striving. You work in an attitude that I'm going to do my part. And in the end, it's not in my hands. I can relax. Right. Yes.
Yeah, like I think also like the fact that he says Hevel and Tov, it's not like a contradiction.
Mhm.
Because just because something is fleeting, it doesn't mean that it has to be bad.
That's true. Yes.
Yeah.
Some of the best things in life are fleeting. Right? All of you are fleeting. I am fleeting, right? And yet we're amazing, right? Contrary to Epstein, who thinks we are useless. Right? So very good. Okay, so now it doesn't end there. Careful. What's the ending? We've reached a climax, but all of a sudden we just come crashing down. Do you see the ending?
You're fascinating.
No, no, no. Right there, ending of chapter 2.
Oh.
Yes, that is a downer too. What's the last sentence in chapter 2? We can't avoid this. We've come to a climax. Yes, Eden. We are all in Eden. Should we receive the gifts of God? And then this too is Havel, right? Now, what is he saying? Why does he choose to end with Havel and not Tav? I would have been happier if he ended with Tav. He ends the thing with Havel. What's he doing? Why? Why must he end in this way? Why does he choose to end? Why is this anticlimax happening to us? Why would he do that? We're soaring, we were soaring in Eden. We were, receiving all the gifts. And now he's like, but remember, Haven. Why must we constantly keep Haven before us, even in the moment of enjoyment? Every moment of our life, we have to keep Haven before us. Why? What happens if we forget Haven? What's the temptation? Yeah.
I mean, like you start to take things for granted, kind of, and also like I think purpose and like meaning comes in the fact that it's not permanent. So,
And what else? Imagine you receive all those gifts, you receive a beautiful partner, you receive a great job, you have a beautiful house. What's the temptation as you begin to receive all those gifts that you all of a sudden you might start to think maybe that you did it, right? And so Solomon is saying, yeah, but never forget, Haven, it's not you. It's not in your control. It's not in your hand. It slips through the fingers, right? This is the key to retaining the attitude of enjoyment. What happens when you get too successful? How do you start to lose the enjoyment as a successful person? You've received a lot of gifts, you've made it into Eden, you're doing great, you look good. How can you lose your joy? What would happen, and how does Havel put you back in the right state? So you said take it for granted, but how's another way? You got a nice house, you got a nice spouse, you have a good job. Yeah.
Because when you think of your possessions as if they're not really your own, you don't really feel sad when you could lose them.
Exactly, right. It keeps you in a state of freedom, right? Because in a way you realize none of this, right? I don't have to hold on to this. This is not in my control. I don't have, therefore, to continue to amass and consolidate and make more and more money to make sure that it stays, right? That's the problem. You make a little money, you immediately want to make more, right? You get a nice house, immediately it's got to be bigger, right? Because you want to consolidate what you have, right? And he's saying, never, it doesn't help because anyways, you didn't do it, right? So the Hevel is a constant reminder of the fact that we are not in control. And to be constantly reminded that we are not in control, two things happen. Number one, we relax. Number two, we are able to receive. That's why we ought to constantly remember we are not in control. Anytime you start to get too ambitious, right? Or stressed about consolidating your possessions, hey, it's not in my hands, right? It doesn't come from me anyways. I can relax. And at the same time, I remain open, right? So Hevel in a way is what keeps us in the state of grace, of receptivity. You see the connection, Corcoran, now, right? Without the Hevel, we start to become anxious again. Oh, I gotta make it happen. Oh, my house, I gotta have, fire insurance and, life insurance. And I need to make sure my house, and now I need to buy more and more and more. And we get anxious and we lose the pleasure, the joy, right? So Hevel constantly is reminding ourselves, I am not making this happen. These are gifts. They come and they go. They're not in my control. To live in this state of complete grace is what keeps us, right, in the state of joy. That's what, so interesting way to end. The book is read at what Jewish festival? Okay, why? Tell us first, tell us about Sukkot and tell us why you think it's read during Sukkot. Okay, what does Sukkot celebrate? Let's review Sukkot.
Harvest.
That's the
The traveling through the desert.
yes, the biblical reason, please.
It's the sustaining of the Jewish people as
Yes.
they travel.
Very good. Sukkot is the remembrance holiday, which remembers how when the Hebrews were in the desert, and when the Hebrews, how did they eat in the desert?
Manna.
And who gave the manna?
God.
Right, they ate from the hand of God, right? Like the child eats from the hand of, right, like your pet, right? So make sure you write this down. It's very important. The fact that this book is read during Sukkot. Sukkot is the time when God sustained the Israelites in the desert, where they depended completely on God, right? Where they lived in tents, right? Just like the holiday of Sukkot invites us to live in tents for a whole week, right? And they lived without any security. And yet the main emotion that is commanded during Sukkot is what? What's the only emotion that is commanded during, there's an emotion that is commanded? Not thankfulness, joy, right? It's commanded. I mean, along with a long list of sacrifices, there's one more command, be joyful. It's forced, right? Connection between precariousness and joy. This is the holiday of Sukkot. Connection between precariousness, which makes possible receiving everything from the hand of God. That's what Sukkot commemorates, is the fact that everything we have received, right? And now we can relax because it's not in our hands. Yes.
If you build this circle, which is a flimsy structure to put your meals in and sleep in for the week, you are no longer taking all your good material possessions and your use. You're having a very simple structure that you're in, so everyone's equal.
Very good.
Sense.
Right?
And
Yes.
it's an equalizer.
Exactly.
Bring in that comes from God and brings you down to that level of that equalizer in the same way that Hevel is the equal.
Exactly.
The ultimate
Yes.
equalizer, because at death, we are all equal, whether we are rich or.
Exactly.
We acted good in God's eyes, or not so good.
Yeah, very good. So important connections here, right? You to understand the book of Ecclesiastes, it helps to connect it to the festival to which has been associated, right, by the rabbis, right?
That's why it's also the period when we finish the cycle of reading the Torah through the year. So that instead we go back, we open up.
A new beginning, right?
Back in the beginning.
Yes, excellent. Very good. So Sukkot is a kind of loss, which, right, kind of, and also a new beginning. Very good. Okay, good. This is the theology of the book of Ecclesiastes. If you understood this, you're good. You missed the most important part. I don't know how, unless you took it before with me, I don't remember. I've taught this before. Okay, so make sure you watch the recording because you missed it, the climax. Okay, now, when you read the book of Ecclesiastes, this passage, right? Enjoy, let's just end with that, rejoice, what, and so forth. It happens, I think, 2 or 3 more times, right? And those other times will include the wife, the feminine element, right? So in the book, this passage about receiving, about enjoyment, about the state of grace where you are receiving from God rather than doing is very, and I'm sorry, I didn't do the inventory, but in the other passages, it is associated with enjoying the wife, right? So you have now the feminine element has been reintegrated. So you can see how King Solomon has had, he will fall back into he will lose his ma'at a few more times, right, throughout the book, but he will always emerge with this same passage, right? So he will be moving through, I mean, he doesn't have a once and for all revelation, right? You can see that he struggles with this vision, right? He will fall back into the king who has lost his crown, right? Over and over again. And then he will resurface into this feminine dimension, right? I call it a mother's house dimension because it is receptivity. The wife is associated to that. It is a different approach to life. And then he falls back into the toxic masculinity and then he reemerges. The whole book is going to be this back and forth, but that is really in essence this is the guiding thread of the book. We have understood the direction, right? Yes. Anybody know where the other passages are? Anybody do the inventory by any chance? Do I have to do it myself? Of all the other times. Well, the other times where it says enjoy, rejoice, and then occasionally there's the wife also in there. That's something we can do.
Chapter 9, like one of the ones with the wife.
Yeah, there's one in chapter, there's earlier ones. It's at least 3 or 4 times, right? Yeah. So jot those down, right? Read it again. Find all those passages because that's the guiding thread. This is what do you call this? There's a myth in Greece about the Ariadne. Yeah. That thread. Yeah. What was it? Yeah, like she's lost in the maze, right? Is that it? And then she has a thread.
She gives the string to Theseus.
String. That's it. This is the string, guys, to guide you through the it's not keep the commandments and fear God. Is this enjoyment, these moments of enjoyment are the guiding threads here that get Solomon in moments where Solomon is emerging and reconnecting with his ma'at, right? Reconnecting with the feminine. That would be my reading of the text. Okay, good. Any questions? Any comments?
Did you have a similar explanation as to why Ruth is read on Shavuot?
Yeah, for sure. Shavuot is the giving of the Torah. What does Ruth teach? Doesn't teach about the Torah, but something else equally important, foundational.
I'm blanking.
What's the main word that is ascribed to Ruth? Main word.
Humility.
No.
The
What?
parents.
No.
Oh,
Yeah, chesed. 4 times. Chesed, remember loving kindness. How's that connected to the giving of the Torah? I'm curious. What's the goal of the Torah? What's the goal of all the commandments?
People learn how to relate.
Yes. Learn chesed. She is the embodiment already. So rabbis give this explanation. They say, we read Ruth on Shavuot. Why? Because she is the embodiment of the Torah, because she found what the Torah is trying to get to, which is chesed. That's paraphrasing. That's what they say. So that's the idea. She's in a way embodying the essence of the Torah, which is love, right? In that sense. Does that make sense? So all the holidays is very interesting to see the connection between the text and a lot of these texts that are studied during the holidays are mother's house texts, right? We have the book of Esther, which we skipped, which is coming, Ruth, Song of Songs during Shabbat, connected to the holidays. There are meanings there, right? Okay, good. Let me stop this recording. And next time we